Bakunin Jurisdictional Command, the soul of the Nomad Nation, home to many an anarchist. This is the group that you pull when you're trying to be a defensive Nomad player. Filled with a bunch of other control options and some good aggressive pieces, this ship is the home to crazy battle nuns, super augmented individuals that just want to express themselves to the nth degree, and crazy cyber anarcho-feminists. These are the profiles that you're going to look for and keep an eye out when it comes to playing BJC. And who better to start off with than the people who need to try to keep it all together? The Moderators. Now, Moderators are your very basic kind of light infantry. They have your AVA total. They aren't really anything to write home about except for their whip 13 and their BTS of 3. So they can kind of do well against some of the more BTS focused weaponry, but they're not going to be really trying to fight anything. These guys are your home for cheap orders, coming in at a really interesting points cost of only 9. They all have para CCWs as well, so if something tries to come in and hit them, they can actually hold their own. And this is one of the options that you're probably going to take if you really want a cheap lieutenant. Now, the biggest thing to really keep in mind when it comes to Moderators is their link teams. They can only core, but they have some very interesting options, which brings us to the feminists themselves, the Riot Girls. Now, Riot Girls got great. They're still pretty basic across the board. They're your average kind of heavy infantry. They got 6'2", so they're fast. They still have MSV1, so they're seeing through a lot. Still frenzy to lower their costs. BS attack +1 damage, because why not? Dodge +3, so they're dodging on 16s. 2 wounds, immune to shock, Fire Team Harris, Fire Team Core. But the big thing with these girls, they can join Moderators. So, if you really want, you can bring a super defensive core team with 2 missile launchers and 3 cheapo Moderators to back it up, and it can do work. It's kind of devastating. And for your offensive options, the Spitfire is a go-to. You basically have a mini heavy machine gun, and you have the aggressive range bands that the Spitfire brings. Everything's at a good, cheap price point. You have a 10-bot -6 if you really want to protect yourself against some hacking. And honestly, I cannot stop gushing about the Riot Girls. I think they're great. I think they're amazing. A small footnote to keep in mind is Avicenna, who I'm not going to go over. She can join both Riot Girls and Moderators to give your army a really good doctor, but that's all she kind of brings, so I'm sorry for not going too in-depth on her. What I will go in-depth on is the Taskmaster. Taskmasters are now linkable. So you have a big size 5, arm 5, BTS 6, pain train. He's got all the immunity shock. He's Mind Layer, which is great because all of his profiles have some form of deployable. You either have the heavy machine gun with shock mines. You have a heavy shotgun if you want to bring something that's going to be more close quarters with Crazy Koalas. You have the Red Fury with Pulsar and Crazy Koalas and another 10-bot because why not? The heavy rocket launcher, light shotgun, Crazy Koalas, again, because why not? They're all packing DACCWs. They're all packing heavy pistols. And they can join Riot Girls. So you can create a super offensive little group of a Riot Girl Spitfire, a Taskmaster HRL, and why not? A Riot Girl -6 Firewall 10-bot. And you have so many range bands covered in that little relatively cheap package that you can just go. You can send them off on their way, and they're going to do amazing things. I recently played a game, actually, where that Harris of the Spitfire, HRL, and the 10-bot just worked. It was awesome. Another thing to go over is the Clockmaker. Now, the reason I'm going over the Clockmaker here is because he's actually linkable in Bakunin. He's an engineer, he's high willpower, he's got a deactivator, he's got a gizmo kit with +1 burst, and he can join Moderators and Riot Girls. 18 points, so he's still a little bit on the expensive side, But for what you get, a Whip 15 engineer, he can keep your Riot Girls and your Taskmasters going, or a tag if you want to bring it. He's great. And if you just want him to push buttons and get dragged along with the Riot Girls, probably bring him. Why not? Sure, Riot Girls have a specialist operative, but he pushes buttons way better. Now, the other link team options for Bakunin revolve around the Moiras. Moiras are a little interesting in how they can be put together. So let's go over the basic profile really quick. They're BS 12, they're Fizz 12, they're Whip Great 14, they're Armor 3. Pretty basic medium infantry loadout. What's special about them is the Mimetism -6. That's great. They're all number 2. Link team's really, really resilient. They're all NCO, so they can use, say, your cheap Moderator Lieutenant's order and get a little bit extra juice out of that. They're all trained total, so they're not slowing down. They're all religious, so while it can be a double-edged sword, they're not moving. They can fire team core and they can harass. Their cheapest profile is a Zapper Emitter Combi Rifle. A thing to note, they all have Zappers. Zappers, for anyone who doesn't know, is a direct template EM weapon. It's pretty good. But their other options aren't bad either. They have the heavy machine gun and multi-sniper options. Sure, Moiras are a bit on the expensive side for what you're getting. But because of the Mimetism -6, if you pick your targets correctly, they can impose some pretty serious penalties on something that's trying to hit them. What's interesting with the Moiras is how their fire teams work. So instead of, say, putting in some wild cards, you get access to the Reverend Healers. Reverend Healers are Whip 14 doctors. They're pretty good. They're cheap at only 33 points with Mimetism -6 and religious and all that good stuff. Definitely kind of more filler. Their explosive close combat weapon with CC22 is pretty darn good if you want to, say, fight off something that's trying to come and get your precious Moiras. They're a bit tougher than Moiras as well, and they're BS 13. So with that boarding shotgun, say in a Moira core, that can be a pretty good defensive weapon against anything that's trying to come at you. Now, the other options that can go along with the Moiras are the Custodiers. Custodiers are really the premier kind of hackers for Bakunin. They're only Harris, they're Mimetism 6, and for the most part, they're really there to be hackers. But they, for the most part, bring about the Hacking Device Plus. That's really the options that you're going to be looking at. So you're getting your white noise, and while you're probably not going to bring this with, say, a Riot Girl Harris who's going to be being offensive, bringing it with a Moira team. So kind of changing how you're thinking about things and going this different direction with the Reverends. Now you can block out the MSV. It's still a part of your group because they can be a part of any fire team of Reverend Moiras. And now you're blocking line of sight to some of the more scary arrow pieces that exist on the board. The things that would, say, be canceling your Mimetism. They're also Mimetism -6, so they are also pretty tough to hit. They're also Armor 3, so they're pretty tough. It's really just, it's good. They are good. Next up, we are going to be going over the Zeros. Zeros are literally the bog standard infiltrating camo specialists. They're not going to be shooting things. They're there to press buttons, be annoying, and put down mines. But one of the better options for Zeros is the Killer Hacker. I can't tell you how many times I've used the Killer Hacker in the midfield to go after my opponent's hackers. For instance, let's say, maybe there's a Zerat in the midfield. The Zerat thinks they're safe with their Mimetism -6. They're up on a tall place, so they can't be hit, and they're going to be there ready to go and push a button later. But they made the mistake of being a hacker. So your Zero is just going to sneak up and Trinity them right in the face. It's it's really good. I love Zeros. I think every single Bakunin and Nomad Vanilla list should bring at least 2 Their terrain total, so they're going to be getting through literally everything. Bring zeros. They will do the job. Next, we have the Uberfall Commando. This is literally the insanity of Bakunin served to you on a plate for some of the cheapest points options I have seen. Their CC24, their BS11, Fizz 13, their Whip 12. They move fast at 6'4", along with the Pupniks. They're not the strongest thing. They're structure instead of runes, so you kind of need your engineer, your clockmaker. The martial arts level 2, their CC attack -3, their dodge +1 inch, their natural born warrior, they're totally immune, they're climbing plus. I mean, come on. These things do work. The Chimeras are always going to be coming around with a combi rifle, nano pulsar, and eclipse grenades to, again, block out those MSVs. But the big thing that she brings is the rival close combat weapon. It is terrifying. Rival close combat is scary. Most things in the game aren't going to be having the super high BTS to fight that. And because of martial arts level 2, she's getting a bit of a bump with her Fizz because the Pupniks are going to be coming with her. She's going to be having extra burst. And Pupniks are nothing to sneeze at either for using them as a close combat hitter. They're just as fast as the Chimera. They're not as good in close combat. There's the same Fizz. They're not as tough with armor, but you get what, they're there to be missiles. They all have DA close combat weapons. They're dodging on 19s because of the dodge +6, and they're still total immune. And they have climbing plus. They're going to scurry over buildings and come and eat anything your opponent was foolish enough to put in their way. And the smoke grenades are going to basically just help them get to where they want to go. They're pretty fun. I really like at least including one of the 20-point option with the 3 Pupniks in any Bakunin list I write, just because they're good. Please, take the Uberfall Commandos. Please. Next, we have the Prowlers. Prowlers are one of the things that benefited from unnesting because they gained hidden deployment. Prowlers were already a pretty scary midfield presence, and now you get to hide them. Sure, you're not going to be appearing and being like, oh, I have a missile launcher because I'm an Octofer, hi. But you are going to be appearing suddenly in the midfield with a Spitfire or an adhesive launcher or being a hacker, because why not? BS12, Whip 14, Fizz 11, Arm 2, BTS 6. The BTS 6 is what makes me really like the killer hacker option, because your whip is already really good. And the BTS 6 means that against other hackers, you have a higher chance of surviving. Their camo, their surprise attack -3, their mimetism -3. And again, because it seems to be a thing with all of the midfield presence of Bakunin, their terrain total. Now, they are also baseline specialist operative, so literally any of these guys that you bring, while you're going to be paying the points for it, because their cheapest profile is 33, they can all do the job that you need them to do. Prowlers are a good pick. You can literally bring a 0 model list if you really want to in Bakunin. Bring a moderator core team to just kind of sit there and be like, hey, we're totally watching over this completely empty field with a whole bunch of camo tokens somewhere. It's actually a list I used to bring before I called the zoo list, where the moderators were kind of like the wardens. It was funny and it was fun. And Prowlers are kind of really good game wardens now, because they're going to be hiding and then they'll pop up and they'll do a job and they'll do it well. Next, we have to go over the Morlocks. Now, warbands, not quite as good as they once were, but doesn't knock these guys out. No way. Martial Arts 2, CC 23, BS 11, but who cares? They're chain rifle carrying jerkbags. Fizz 13, Whip 14, which they're not going to be accomplishing much for your classifieds and whatnot, but hey, an extremis recovery is a thing. Armor 1, but the big thing that makes Morlocks really good is meta chemistry. The metachemistry table has changed, and I think for the better. There's not as many bad options for metachemistry anymore. They're all pretty decent, especially on a Morlock. Just even rolling +3 Fizz makes them pretty scary. I mean, most of them have DA close combat weapons. That's good. They have an EMCCW on one profile. That's great. They have an AP close combat with assault pistol profile. That's 6 points. Because why not? I really like Morlocks. Their smoke option. Sure, you don't have a huge amount of MSV2 or any in Bakunin, but with the MSV1 on the Riot Girls, they are a great combo. I like Morlocks. Please bring Morlocks. If for no other reason than just for fun, because come on. They're the crazy, really kind of augmented dudes that, well, they kind of probably get some stuff from a dude in the back alley. Let's not talk about that. Moving on, we have the Sin Eater Observance. Sin Eaters have not really changed, but they are always worth going over. This is a great defensive option. BS 13, Arm 3, Neurocynetics, Mimetism -3. These guys are kind of like Q drones, only instead of being structures and needing an engineer, they are wounds. So you can use those really good doctors that you have access to in Bakunin. They can bring a heavy machine gun. It's a classic staple. They can bring a multi-sniper. Pretty good. They can bring a Spitfire. Also pretty good. The option I actually really like is the Mark 12. Reason being is you still get 3 dice in reactive turn, and a Mark 12 is nothing to sneeze at. It's cheap. It's affordable. You put them in a spot that you want to hold. They are not board protectors. They are spot protectors. You put them in a place that you don't want someone going into, and they will hold it for you. I have done some silly things, again, with Sin Eaters. I do a lot of silly things. I kind of make troll and meme lists. I will not deny that. But Sin Eaters have a good spot. They have a really good spot. Put them in your list if you want a nice defensive option, and watch them do the work that you need them to do. To go over characters, we'll start with Zoe and Pi. Zoe and Pi are probably one of the better hacker options in Nomads. Sure, you have other options in other sectorials, but for Bakunin, Zoe's great. She's an engineer, she's got the activator, she's got a hacking device with 0 pain, she's got +1 gizmo kit, and bioimmunity. Bioimmunity effectively is going to make her effective armor 3 against everything. She's whip 15, so she's going to be doing her job very well. And she has a deactivator because all engineers do. Combi rifle decharges, really good. Paraclose combat weapon at -3, really good. But one of the big things that she brings is Pi. Pi is a repeater, remote presence, FO, triangulated fire, mimetism -6 jerkbag. Like, really, he is. He's got sensor too, so he can pop and just get all the camo out. He has a paraclose combat weapon at -6, combi and a flash pulse with whip 13. Sure, he's only BS 11, but I mean, come on. He's mimetism -6. He's going to hide around corners. He's going to triangulated fire and just be like, I don't care about any of your modifiers, sir. And I wave good day with my combi rifle. Or, maybe the flash pulse. I don't recall if it works with it. But he's a great little remote. And because he counts as his own order, you are getting 2 orders for 44 points and no SWC. He's great. He's what makes Zoe and Pi Zoe and Pi, and they're going to do the job that you want to give them, which honestly is probably going to be hacking something into oblivion. Next on the characters is Bran. Brando Castro, the 000. Bran is one of the lucky ones that got the infiltration +6. He's CC22. He's BS 11. He's Fizz 13, Whip 13, Armor 1. He's Special Operative Base. He's Martial Arts Level 3. He's infiltrating again on a +6. He's Camo, Mimetism -3, Super Jump, Stealth, Terrain Total, Climbing+. He will get where you want to put him. And he's rocking with either a boarding shotgun or a combi rifle emitter. Pick your poison. You're either going to infiltrate him up, say, next to a link team, with that boarding shotgun around the corner and just mow them down with the template, or he's going to have the combi rifle emitter get around a corner, say, I don't know, into a Yotam's back, and emitter it in the butt. Should help take out that Yotam, nice and safely. And then later, he can use his movement skills of stupidity, jumping around, climbing up things, and use his double action close combat weapon to actually really good effect. Martial Arts level 3 makes him really scary in close combat. He's a very good piece. I liken him to some other pieces that other factions can bring for days, but he kind of does a different job to them. He doesn't have to be a piece that's going to say, go and kill something. You're going to want him to kill something because he's a pretty big investment, but you don't need to. He's a good piece. Try him out because he's always going to be fun. And I have very little bad to say about Brando. He's going to do whatever you want him to do. Please kill the Kamau. And lastly, we're going to go over probably one of the best shooters in Nomads, the Reverend Superior Cassandra Kusanagi. Cassandra is lovely. CC 19, move 4-4 like all the other Moiras got. BS 14, Fizz 13, Whip 14, Armor 3, 1 wound. And she's no wound incapacitation with shock immunity. -6 mimetism. Specialist operative. Terrain total. And she's a great lieutenant option. She costs a pretty penny, but you're bringing either a Spitfire or a multi-rifle. If you want to make her your lieutenant, she's going to give you +1 SWC if you bring the multi-rifle version, which isn't bad considering it also has a light flamethrower and EM grenades. Fizz 13 with EM grenades in a link because she can go with Moiras, Custodiers, or Reverend Healers. It's worded weird, but basically what it gives you is the Moira core becomes a scary thing to face. Because all of a sudden you have a great point girl in Cassandra Kusanagi. Her Spitfire is going to mow things down. BS 14 means she's going to be better shot than most of your options in Bakunin. Mimetism -6 means if you pick your targets right, she can possibly get something at, say, I don't know, a -12. There's a point to be made about Moiras as a whole because of the range band play they can make. And Cassandra takes that a little further. Great piece. If you're going to make a list with Cassandra, you're going to make a list around her and the Moira team, but it can do work. And it will be fun. It'll be really fun. But these are the things I honestly would say are what give Bakunin punch. You're going to bring them, you're going to play around with lists, you're going to kind of find that playstyle that you like. And then you're going to go nuts because it's Bakunin. It's all about going a little crazy and bringing down the man. Forget you, Mama ALF. Forget you, Pano. We're taking you down. But anyway, guys, that's all I got for Bakunin. If you liked the video, please leave a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe. And please leave your comments in the comment section down below. Let me know if you have any differing opinions to what I do. I'm sure you do, because my opinion is only one of many. And Bakunin is kind of one of those sectorials that can just do a lot of different things. They're really versatile, and they're fun to play. Now, peace out, enjoy the rest of your day, and have a good one.